Chapter 2. 10 years had passed, and the day had come for the prince to return home after completing his studies. The whole kingdom was decorated with diyas, clay lamps, at every corner and every wall. The road to the kingdom were covered with rose petals, and every citizen was on the street to celebrate the return of their beloved prince. The king, who had grown old and looked older with his grey hair and wrinkled face, stood at the gate with his whole court, waiting for the prince. The praise of the prince, being the best student of the Gurukul, beloved of all the teachers, most probably being the best student the Gurukul had ever produced, had reached the kingdom, and everybody was excited to meet the prince. When the prince entered through the gates, the kingdom was filled with joy and laughter, and with lots of love. The prince, who stood next to his father on the chariot, was speechless. He hadn't expected so much love and attention. Although shocked at the beginning, the prince responded to the people and thanked them for their wonderful gesture. When they reached the palace, the prince greeted each and every soldier, ran to the chamber of the caretakers. He hugged and greeted each one of them. He also went to the resting place of the old caretaker lady and prayed for her departed soul. She had died 5 years after the prince had left. Finally, the prince went to his room that he hadn't seen for the last 10 years. He lied on his bed and took a deep breath of peace. Lying on the bed, he was thinking about his childhood. All the memories were flashing through his eyes. He was thinking about his mother when suddenly he heard a knock on his door. He quickly got up, managed himself, and said in a very polite voice, "Come in, please." The door opened and a soldier came in, bowed down, and said in a strong but calm voice, "Your Majesty, the king wants to see you." "Is it something urgent?" asked the prince. "No, my lord, after you have taken sufficient rest only," replied the soldier. "Very well then, I will see him after I take a bath, because right now I don't smell anything like a prince." "Okay, your Majesty, I would inform the king," said the soldier, and slowly walked back, bowing down. But before he exited the room, the prince called out to him, "Ranjit Singh ji." "Yes, your Majesty," replied the soldier, a little bit shocked. "How is your son now? I remember he had some breathing problems. Is he okay now?" "Yes, my lord. He is perfectly okay. He has even joined the Kalari for his initial training," replied the soldier, with a smile on his face and his eyes a little moist, seeing the prince had the same heart as his father and cared for each and every one of his subjects like his own family. The prince smiled back and said, "Okay, give my greetings to your family." The soldier bowed again and left the room. The prince then opened his luggage and started arranging the room. He took out a book from his bag that had a painting of a peacock on its cover. Peacock was his favorite creature in all of the creation, and it was also the symbol on the flag of their kingdom. After setting up his room, he took the book and kept it near his bed. It was his diary in which he collected all the stories that he heard during his 10 years in the Gurukul and what he remembered from his childhood. The prince took bath, got dressed in his princely costume, and went to his father. The king was in his chamber, sitting in his balcony, looking at the setting sun behind the far away mountains. The prince went up to his father and greeted him. The king quickly went to his son and hugged him, with a small slight smile on his face. He said, "The whole kingdom is proud of you, my son. You have exceeded our expectations. Ask me anything, and I will give you whatever you desire." The prince was shocked. He had never got this kind of an appreciation from his father ever in his life. He was filled with joy and excitement. He felt like it was the right time to ask his father for something that had been his biggest dream. Taking a deep breath, the prince replied, "Father, there is something I have always wanted to do, and I want your permission to do it now." "Anything you want, son," replied the king. "Father, I want to travel the world. I want to go to different places, see different people, learn different cultures. I want to document their stories. I want to document their history. I want to write a book that will have all the stories of the world. I want to travel beyond the mountains, the rivers, and the ocean, reach lands that has not been seen yet, and tell their stories to the world. I want to make people to see and understand that wherever you go, stories are always the same. Although people look different, but we all are really the same. This is my dream, Father, and I would love for you to give me permission to follow this dream." Hearing this, the king, who had a smile on his face after a long time, again went back to the grim sadness. "How long are you planning to go away for?" asked the king, in a more subtle voice. "I don't know, Father. Traveling the world will definitely take some time," replied the prince. "Son, I respect your dreams, but I have to tell you something. I am getting old, and I am no more the king I was once. Our neighbors, they have become greedy. They have been attacking our border regions for some time now, and it's being said that they have joined forces and are planning to invade us." Before he could finish his sentence, the prince interrupted. "Say no more, Father. I will stand by you, and we will fight for our kingdom together. I promise that nothing will happen to our kingdom till I am standing." The king felt relieved. He patted on his son's back, and both father and son turned towards the sun as it sunk into the depth of the mountains, leaving behind a pink sky. The kingdom began preparation for the war. Walls were strengthened, swords were sharpened, and army was made battle ready.